Hey neighbors, so we completed our new warehouse, our additional warehouse earlier this year, and I want to give you a tour today of our new facility, show you some things that we got right and some things that we got wrong. So we needed an additional warehouse for our assembly. We've got 35,000 square foot at our original location where we ship out of every day, but we needed an assembly warehouse because we was out of room. We was really tight. So we wanted an area in an industrial complex because we didn't need a high traffic area. We didn't need to be in commercial real estate that cost a lot of money, that had a lot of traffic by it, because we don't have any walk-in traffic. This is an assembly warehouse. We need to be in an industrial area so that we could get trucks in and out and have city utilities. So we reached out to our local town, City of Moultrie, which is about 6 miles from our headquarters there. And we was able to reach out to the City of Moultrie, and they was able to help us acquire some land in the industrial area in the City of Moultrie. So we ended up building a building which is 200 by 120 that would fit our needs at this new industrial area for the City of Moultrie down here. Now we reached out to the Development Authority, and believe it or not, they wasn't any help to us. But the city actually was, and they did us right all the way through. Now, we weren't looking for a handout, don't get me wrong. What we was looking for was an opportunity. And the city worked with us all the way through that process and made everything happen. Our Development Authority, and I don't want to ramp on this too much, but they was useless to us. I find that most development authorities, they walk over more than they pick up. They're interested in 200 or 2,000 jobs instead of a small business creating 20 or 30 or 50 jobs. So anyway, I could rant about that on and on. Our city was really good to us, so if I had one piece of advice there, when you're starting a project like this right here, reach out to everybody and see if there's some opportunities there, because normally you wouldn't think the city would help us very much find a location, all this. That would normally fall in the Development Authority, but in our case, it was the city that actually came through. All right, so moving on. We built this 24,000 warehouse down here for assembly, and we also got an area here that we'll be going to be able to use for our live plants. We got big plans coming for next year, so it's going to allow us to have expansion for other products and other lines. So we're excited about that. We were able to get a piece of property here that is about 5 acres. So we have room for expansion if we want to or we need to later on. So we're not going to be landlocked in. We have capabilities to bring big trucks in, big trucks out. We have all the utilities we need. We're not in a high traffic area, which we don't need. So it worked out perfectly, the location that we were able to acquire from the city. Okay, so let's talk about how we got started with the project. Well, I, in my past history, have managed or built several things before, so I knew I wanted to be kind of hands-on with it. Some people may not want to be, and that's okay, but I want to be hands-on with this project here, so I managed the project all the way through. However, being as it is in the city and industrial complex area, we had to do a lot of things that we normally wouldn't have to do, such as permits, handicap accessibility, environmental things, and all regulatory things like that. So the first thing we had to do was get an architect to design our building. The reason we had to do that was to make sure we went through all the code process with the city file. Now that was expensive. It cost several $1,000s to get this architect to do that, but you know, it was a have to do. And in hindsight, I don't regret it at all because it made our process a lot smoother. All right, then before we ever get started building, we had to get an engineer in here to do a drawing and a plan for the lot here, because anytime you disrupt more than an acre, you have to have an environmental plan. And that's where you see this holding pond here that we had to put in. We had to have a plan for all the runoff water there. And this piece of concrete that you see right here, we had to have it specially built to be able to handle the runoff water here, and it carries it to the sewer system. So all this was really expensive, but it's something that we had to have done. So there was a lot of work to be done before we even started on the building. And then we had to build the pad for the building. We had to haul a lot of dirt in. Now, myself, my brother-in-law, and my nephew did the dirt work there. They're kind of in the construction business, and I knew I could work with them and get that done. So I was lucky enough to have all that close by. So we got the pad built. Took several weeks to get the pad built, get the right compaction on the dirt and all that, and then we're ready for the building. Now here's one thing that I did and have done in the past when I put up these metal buildings that really works well. Deal with an established company that's used to putting up these size buildings. I've dealt with the same company on all my metal buildings, and they specialize in these larger buildings like this right here. They have good crews, and they were a dream to work with. So that's one thing that I'm glad I did. I had to have a permit pulled for this because we was in the city. I had to have a general contractor. So I actually had to pay somebody a few $1,000s just to sign a piece of paper to pull the permit. I don't even think they come out here the first time. The guy actually did me a favor by doing this, but I wanted to manage this project myself, so that was kind of something that we had to do. All in all, the project went pretty smooth. I did have 2 or 3 things here that really caused me a little bit of issues there at the end. One big one, and I'll go over there at the end. But the advice I would have to give somebody for starting a project like this right here, if you don't want to be a part of it, hands-on, day-to-day, use a general contractor. Now, I did not use a general contractor. The only reason I used a general contractor was to pull the permit. I handled everything else myself. If you don't enjoy that kind of stuff or you don't have experience with it, it's probably better off to let a general contractor have all that responsibility and headache. I wanted more of a hands-on approach to it. I had certain subs that I knew I wanted to use. So that's the reason I kind of did that. All the subs I used, including the building erector, the electrician, plumber, we even put cameras up in here. All these people I have used before in the past, so I had confidence in all those guys, didn't have any problems. Now here are the 3 things I did have problems with, and if I was to do over again, I would do differently. Well, I know this is a minor thing, but this actually happened. So we got ready for the doorknobs there, and I just thought to myself, well, I can just run to Home Depot and Lowe's and get doorknobs and put them on there, and that's exactly what I did, but I put the wrong kind of doorknobs on there. I was not up to date on codes like I should have been, and come to realize we had to change out all the doorknobs. So we put the wrong doorknobs in first, couldn't carry them back because we'd already installed them. So we had to pretty much discard those and go by the correct doorknobs. You have to use lever type doorknobs in all commercial industrial buildings. And this is for handicap accessibility or fire code. They tried to explain it to me, and I guess it makes sense somewhat, but that's the reality, is the lever type doorknobs instead of the old type doorknobs that I thought would work. This is another lesson I learned. We have to have fire extinguishers every 100 feet within the building here. So we thought to ourselves, let's just go to Home Depot or Lowe's, buy fire extinguishers and put them up, and that's exactly what we did. But in hindsight, you're better off to hire one of these fire extinguisher companies that do this to do it for you. And the reason why is every year these things have to be certified. So come a year from now, we're going to have problems getting these certified, and I don't know what I'm going to do. But from a money standpoint and a time standpoint, you're a lot better off to hire these companies that do this kind of stuff every day to come in and set this up for you. And here was my biggest mistake on the whole project. I used a local concrete guy that had done some work for me in the past and done pretty good, but they was always small projects. So this guy right here has a concrete business where he does driveways and small pads, and he does a really good job at it. So I was going to use him on this project here, but this project ended up being too big for him, and he did not let me know that this was too big for him, but in hindsight, some of that fault laid on me. I should have realized this was too big of a project for him. Just like this wall here that we put in. We put this wall around 3/4 of our building here, and this wall is extremely expensive because it's got rebar in it, and it's engineered and all that. And they made some mistakes on this wall. They really didn't know how to do it. They didn't have a lot of experience to do it, and they didn't do a very good job. You can see they've tried to patch up a lot of it. See some of it's flaking off there, and we've got some cracks in it. The slab, for the most part, is okay, but I have used bigger concrete contractors on bigger jobs before, and it went a lot smoother. So in hindsight, I should have used a concrete contractor that had experience and that only did big jobs. They could have moved in, knocked the project out a lot quicker, because this drug out on the concrete way more than, a lot longer than it should have. If I would have got a bigger concrete company in here that had experience doing this, I think things would have went a lot smoother and a lot quicker. Now, a couple of things I really got correct, because I've done it before, is one is we added additional insulation. So when we put the building up, I had the guys put thicker insulation up than they normally put on buildings. I know from experience that money pays off. And another one that you would probably never think about is having these floors buffed and sealed and having the joints caught professionally by a company that does that all the time. Makes a huge difference on being able to keep this floor clean and having it look a lot better. In our first warehouse that we originally had, we didn't have this done, so we tried to come in there and do it ourselves. But this kind of job right here works a lot better if somebody does it that knows what they're doing. It's really hard for an amateur to go in there and caulk or seal these joints like they should be done. This company that did this for me right here does it all the time. That's all they do. And folks, I'm gonna tell you, being able to do that and keeping that dirt and grime out of those cracks right there makes it so much easier keeping this floor clean. Having a slab or floor this size here, you have to think about the maintenance of it. Having a floor sweeper like this right here makes it easy keeping it clean. But having that slab sealed and polished right there, whew, it makes it nice. It's expensive to do. It's one of those costs you normally don't think about, but it's one thing I would absolutely do if I built a new warehouse, is seal those joints and put a sealer on that concrete. When we designed the build, we wanted what we call a dirty area, an area that was outside, under shelter, that we could use for dirty materials such as plants. With this new facility here, we're going to be able to put a live plant facility out here so that we can keep this area clean. If it gets dirty, no big deal, we can wash it off or blow it off. Also, we've got another area that's right here adjacent to this that we're going to be able to put in a plant holding facility in, so that everything is very convenient right here. We're probably going to end up putting a chain link fence all the way around, but this is going to work out really well when we have our plant holding facility close by and we need to pull orders, and we can pull those plants in, have them in the area here so that we can get them shipped to you. We can keep everything clean, nice and tidy. Well, this new facility, I hope, is going to be able for us to serve you better with our new product lines that we're bringing in. Also, maybe some of the things I shared with you today will help you on some projects you have coming up. You're always going to have wins and losses, and we had them on this one as well. You just try to minimize the losses as much as you can, and all projects take long and cost more than they're supposed to.